Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the Southern HIV AIDS Awareness Day, and I am Mariah Lester, and I'm your moderator for today. We know that the South has long been a battleground in the fight towards justice and inclusion. And the population here includes many people with varying experiences that seem to be overshadowed by a long history of what the Old South was and what it represented. And amid the current COVID-19 pandemic, there are also pandemics and syndemics of HIV, racism, and access. Trans communities of the South often fall within the crosshairs of this dynamic, falling victim to inequity and disparities. And today's conversation is with a great group of people where we seek to raise awareness of HIV and associated constructs for trans communities, particularly in the South. Again, my name is Araya Lester. I am the Deputy Director at the Transgender Strategy Center. I'm also a board member of the Southern AIDS Coalition, and I am a board trustee member of AIDS United. And within the transgender community, I am the board chair of STAR, which is the first trans organization created in the United States of America by Marsha P. Johnson and Silva Rivera. And I have an excellent group of individuals here representing both TGNC communities and the South. Let's welcome them up to our virtual stage. And I will introduce each and every one of them. Our featured panelist is Yasmin Hunter. Yasmin Hunter is also the ambassador for Let's Stop HIV Together, who with Southern AIDS Coalition have put together this fabulous event for us today. She has over 25 years experience in management and capacity building and is a consultant for the trans community and has been advocating since 2018, traveling specifically around the Southern region for trans rights, needs, and visibility. She's a STI tester for the National Behavioral Surveillance with the Georgia Health Department and a graduate of the Georgia Equality Leadership Academy. Yasmin serves as an ambassador for the National Trans March on DC and is a member of the Georgia Criminalization Advocates. As a consultant for Southern AIDS Coalition, Yasmin has helped rewrite provider care for trans women of color and is a member of Positively Trans and the Positive Women's Network. Yasmin was a graduate of the NMAC Block Program and was a 2019 POS 100 Trans Advocate honoree. She's a graduate of the Medical Office Expert in Billing and Coding Program from Javelin Technical College in Georgia. Thank you, Yasmin, and welcome to the panel.
Good morning.
We also have Javon Martin. Javon Martin has over 30 years of being a mentor, educator, and advocate, and also a house father in the ballroom community. Javon started his transition in 2000 at Callan Lord in New York City, and one of his strong focuses is eradicating homelessness within the TLGBTQI population. Javon presently serves as the founder and executive director of Princess Janae Place, which he founded in 2015. Princess Janae Place is a referral organization for services with an emphasis on trans homeless populations. He has advocated in the fight to change legislation for marriage, equality, and gender in New York. Javon is currently a member of New York's Equality Advisory Council, a proud grandfather, father, and husband. He's an actor, model, producer, entertainer, peer educator, HIV test counselor, and a resounding voice in the community as a consultant on the trans experience and welcome, Javon. Our next panelist we have with us today is Joelle Baez-Uzuri, who is an Army brat born in Würzburg, Germany, from Los Angeles. And Joelle has always been defined by showing up and showing out in spaces where she was not represented. She's worked in corporate America and in fashion, fought for more Black trans representation in the LA underground performance art scene, and started her own t-shirt line, 1092 LLC, styled music videos, performed around LA under the stage name Miss Honeybee. And in 2018, November specifically, she began to work with the Mahogany Project Incorporated, focusing specifically on Black and Brown TLGBTQ plus communities, where she helped with planning various Mahogany Project events and programming. And just recently this year, in February, Joelle joined the Normal Anomaly Initiative team as a program coordinator, where she ran the organization's social media, as well as helping write programming and facilitate trainings and webinars. Welcome, Joelle. And last but not least, we have Ashanti Coleman as our panelist. Ashanti is the co-founder of Lips Tampa in Florida, and is also an outreach coordinator for the for the sex work program SWAP, and is also working with peer support for the Tampa Syringe Exchange program. Welcome, Ashanti, and welcome to all of our panelists today. Now, to begin our conversation, we want to talk about stigma. So we know that within our trans community, we experience a lot of layers when it comes to prejudice, when it comes to discrimination, and when it comes to stigma arising in our lives in all these different types of forms, especially when you look at our experience as Black people and as trans people, and with our experiences of living in the South. So, how do we address stigma living in our reality?
Being that I am, hi everyone, I'm Ashanti, and I started off. Being that I am from a small um, country town in Mississippi, you have to think when we think stigma, and the first thing comes to mind is HIV. So when HIV first hit, I was a young child, and it was hush hush. It wasn't that it started in Africa. It was the fact that it was a gay disease. And everybody that was gay in my hometown was going off to Atlanta, and they were coming back in caskets. So when HIV first hit, it was like a death sentence, and then it was surrounding gay people and the nasty stuff that they do, and being a child, you heard the older folks talk about that's good for them. So when I think about stigma, I think about the shame that is placed on it, especially in the rural South, and the label that is placed on HIV. Why? Oh God, I had this already dressed. Um, it's a burden that people carry. It's a really bad burden that people carry when you think in terms of stigma and HIV, and it sets you apart from everybody else. And it's just not HIV. It's many stigmas, but this is what the conversation is based upon. And you have to go back to the history of it and why. Thank you.
Thank you. Exactly. Exactly. It's those cultural taboos, that kind of lay on, especially living in the South. Javon, what about your experiences? What does stigma look like to you for our communities?
So stigma, from my point of view, being a advocate and now being a producer, um, filming about HIV and AIDS on the trans men perspective, the fellas are not as forthcoming as the trans women. That stigma is really rough. I'm still trying to figure out why guys don't want to come forth and speak their truth so that we can eradicate this stigma. First, you people have to recognize that there's even a stigma, right? A lot of people don't even know that they are even in a negative space about HIV and AIDS. And once they recognize that, you have to address it, right? And your response towards the stigma has to be rooted in healing, right? Because you don't want to attack people for what they don't know. And I'm learning here in the South that a lot of people here are unaware, so we can't attack people for that. What we need to do is involve people, right, so that they can have the correct ideas what HIV actually is. I was listening on the radio this morning, and it said know your antibodies, right? And I was like, wow, that's something different. Coming from the East Coast and hearing know your antibodies. On the East Coast, it's know your HIV status, right? Know your status. And it's a shift for me. But to raise awareness that there is a stigma here in the South.
Thank you. Thank you. Joelle, did you have anything to add?
I did. Being new to the South, I've only lived in the South for about 4 years. The one thing that I've seen is that it's interesting because I feel like the most marginalized communities are communities that exist on the intersection of Black and or LGBTQ or TGNC, and persons living with HIV. They oftentimes reinforce the white patriarchal systems of oppression that keep us in. When I think about stigmas in situations that I've encountered personally, it's always people that are closest to me within the community that are the ones most reinforcing those stigmas. And I think it is because, I agree with Javon, it's because of ignorance. It's because of not knowing that there is a stigma, not knowing that you are perpetuating white patriarchy by consistently reinforcing those stigmas.
Yeah, that's so true. It's rooted in so many different things that I hear you all are bringing up. HIV stigma in of itself, carries a lot of things that come from misguided individuals not lacking the information and education. That knowing that HIV is not just a behavioral thing. Like sometimes it's a byproduct of all these other things that are stacked up against us, and being Black and being trans, and it's not anything to do with how we behave. It's how society is set up to just have all these obstacles to push us down as Black people, as trans individuals. And so yeah, there's so many different layers of stigma that do come up, but there are resources, right? So, Yasmin, you want to give us some resources in addressing some of these things?
Yes. Like the resources are better now than they were as I was growing up in a rural town in southern Alabama, where the stigma was very created widely because there's lack of health care. There's like a 40, 50 mile for health care for someone that's HIV positive or living with any other STIs. The local health departments there doesn't treat the symptoms or the symptomatic problems, and then it becomes more of a stigma when the family is uneducated. Then it's like one family tell one person tell one thing and another person tell another thing, but it's never the same message created. It's always something different, and then it creates more stigma within the cultural. Nowadays we have where you can get tested for in private. You know, your status can be private. It does not have to be public. You don't have to go to a doctor. You can seek resources to get tested to know your status.
And also, I do like to mention that there's a lot of resources available too, and how to just bring up the conversation of stigma, because that's what's important. These conversations, because we don't have this too much, because just the topic of HIV is so stigmatizing, right? So I know that if you go to cdc.gov/Stop HIV Together. There you see it coming across the screen. You're able to see some resources and starting conversations like this, because I know for me, so many of our communities, you couldn't even like put HIV in the program or really like in the organization, because then you're not going to get people to come because of all the stigma that's attached to it, when we already have our own stigma in just being trans, and so it's wrapped up in so many cultural taboos when you put that Southern lens on it too. But anyone wanted to comment on that before we move to the next question?
When I first moved here in 2019 to do the work that I do and to start Lift Tampa, there's an organization here, a big, huge organization, and it is an LGBT organization, right? But it has HIV attached to it, not per se, because their medical department is actually another organization that they collaborate with. But the fact that they are an LGBT organization and HIV is attached to it, I use them as my meeting space before I had to resort to using my living room. And the first time we had our meeting, we got 20 transsexuals to come out. But upon trying to get those transsexuals to come out, it was like, girl, I don't want to go down there. No, I don't want to go. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. And the reason why they didn't want to come was because HIV was attached to it. And they didn't want to make it seem like they was going in to access services. So someone will be talking about, oh, child, she has HIV. She went down there to that clinic. That right there stops us from getting care. And it promotes the stigma. We promote the stigma. We promote the stigma amongst ourselves. With education or not, we still do this as Black trans women. Because it was hard. It was hard to get those girls to come down there, but they did. And then when I started having group in my house, the numbers dwindled. I got half of that.
And that's the innovative approaches, because what we've seen is that the status quo and the traditional programming, especially those that we see in like organizations that don't truly focus on our community, because they don't have the decision makers, within their board and within their management team that do identify as us to help guide of how programs should look when it comes to prevention, when it comes to care, and when it comes to bringing people back in and creating greater access, especially when you're looking at like a rural area that has like less access to places and may have only that one medical organization that is known, for HIV. But so when we look at that burden with all those layers of the South and Black communities and being trans, so when you're trying to access those services that are trans affirming, not just services in general, there's a lot of issues that come up. So Ashanti was talking about how you have the hurdles of that HIV stigma, in order to just access service in general. So what examples do you all have of like creating more accessible avenues of getting people into care and helping your communities be more sustainable?
I'll go ahead and I'll jumpstart this question. I think that the number one thing is you have to have people in charge in creating these programs and systems that identify and exist within the communities that you're trying to serve. It makes no sense to be creating these programs and these systems of care and linkage to care for the Black and brown trans communities if you are a white cis male and you have no idea what the trans community goes through. I think because of that, and because the majority of times programs and systems are created with people who don't identify within the community, they have major gaps. For instance, they only focus on HIV, and they think that that is the main problem with the trans community, when in fact, if you are really trying to attack HIV, you have to know that that's the symptom, not the disease. If you're trying to attack HIV through the lens of the trans community, you have to know that transportation is an issue. Employment is an issue. Housing is an issue. The community will not go and seek care if they don't have sustainable housing, sustainable income, sustainable employment. And I think that when organizations and when there are systems that are created without involving intentfully and actively the Black trans community, those systems are already set up to fail.
I'll go ahead and
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and jump in. By hiring trans people to be at the front door to greet other trans people makes them more welcome, make them more inviting, and make them spread the word that, hey, my sister friend is here, she'll help you. That lowers the stigma and helps get the other people that need care and get them linked to care.
And it gives positive examples of us too. You see, when you see representation, it's just like we've said, the white gay male that sees the white gay male running an organization, and being able to provide all of these resources that are helping the communities get better. We need that as well, and we need to see those people for that encouragement too, to know that, okay, I feel that this place is safe because it's safe for you to work there, so it should be safe for me to get care there. Javon, what about you? What has your experiences been in successful ways in which we create sustainability? I know Javon's internet is a little spotty. Javon, you wanted to mention about AIDS Healthcare Foundation and work that they've done in the South, especially in Texas.
He's frozen.
Okay. Well, we'll leave Javon some space then. Whenever they can get their connection back up. Okay, so when we're looking at all those layers, right? Then you throw COVID-19, coronavirus on top of everything. And all the roadblocks that come up with prevention and care. And when those services are already few and far between for our community, we have all these barriers for getting our optimum health care out of the system. So what are some solutions that help scale up trans-affirming HIV prevention and care services in the South? Or how have the traditional systems failed us in the past?
I think one thing that, at least something that I've seen, is just the increase in telehealth and virtual health, and really knowing that as healthcare providers, in order to offer equitable service, you have to meet clients where they are. And I think one of the things to do, one of the ways to do that is to offer telehealth and offer virtual health appointments. I think another thing that we've been seeing is crucial is the issue of transportation, and really having organizations tackle the problem and the obstacle of transportation, because that is a great issue for the Black trans community, especially in the South, especially when Black trans women are making mere pennies on the dollar of white cis men. The average income is $10,000 or less for those that are employed. I think that transportation and having organizations do, whether it is mail-in HIV testing or they come to you to do HIV testing, which is something that my organization, the Normal Anomaly, has adopted. It's meeting the client where they are and really essentially getting the resources and the services to them and eliminating some of those barriers, because transportation is a huge barrier. And we've seen that in COVID.
So true. Thank you for that. Ashanti or Yasmin, y'all have any good examples of programs that you've worked at or created, or do you know of that work well for our community and addressing our access to healthcare?
I, as an outreach coordinator, one of the things that I do is I partner up with a healthcare program, and I made sure that this healthcare program had on hand a case manager, HIV tester, although I'm an HIV tester, and linkage to care right there in the van. So when we go out and we test, because what I was finding out is when I would test the girls, I would send them from the area that we were in back to the space that the agency was at that did the testing so that they could continue the medical process. And those girls would get out the car on the way there. So to correct that problem, now I have a tester and a caseworker right there getting ready to do everything once if they pop up to them. That's one of the things that I did.
Thank you. Javon, we have you back. Yasmin, you wanted to share?
Yes. What I've done lately since I've started the Lewis Project is I've been meeting girls where they're at, and I've been asking, do you know your status? And if they don't know their status, I partner up with another organization that has a case manager, and he oversees it. I pick them up and I take them and I see them all the way into care. It's like a journey. I build this relationship with them, and I ride this journey
Yes.
with them.
I apologize. What's happening?
I think Javon's a little delayed with his connection there. But yes, thank you, Jasmine. Javon, you wanted to give some great examples of good access to healthcare, if possible. Yeah, Javon's still having audio issues, but we'll try to get his input and I will share it with you all. But what your examples are saying, one, programming has to be created and led by us. One, because our numbers are still really, really high when you look at Black trans individuals, specifically within the South. When you're looking at our HIV acquisitions, rates, and like we said, it's a byproduct of everything else of being homeless or not having access to safe employment, or less risky employment, or streams of income options, and so. When we're seeing examples of us, being able to thrive without having to engage in risky options of income like survival sex work, right? But sex work is something that is a positive thing. But, when you see examples of less risky ways of people living their lives, and then you're seeing more options available for you, and then you're seeing that affirmation in an organization from the front desk all the way up to the highest position, actually affirms you as a person and affirms your community. These are all the ingredients that are needed in order to have successful programming for getting people into care and keeping them there, right? Well, when you lay over, like I said, that COVID-19 thing, Yasmin, you wanted to talk a little bit about the Take Me Home self-testing initiative?
Sure. The Take Me Home project with the CDC, you can order up to 1 to 2 for yourself and someone else, and you also can refer someone to the link so that so it can bring more awareness to your friends and your family. You can also someone that you're dating or your family member, if you guys want to do it together, to know your status. uh, I think that's a great idea from where it's starting to lift some of the stigma, um, just by being able to just have that accessibility to be able to get a test and do it in private.
Thank you. And that's a free testing giveaway while supplies last. You can hopefully see it go across the screen there. It is together.takemehome.org, I believe. But hopefully we'll see it scroll across the screen there. Javon wanted to show Legacy Community Health is a great place for accessing care there in Houston. And that, pretty much affirmed that yes, what it is important to have representation for when individuals get there. And also Monica Roberts Resource Center that was just started to collect data to share resources available in the South. Thank you.
Hello? Hello?
All right, I think you were muted. You're
Yeah.
muted.
Ah, sorry. All right. Any other examples of how we address our community correctly?
I just want to respond to that take home testing.
Mm-hmm.
Being that I am working on a project decriminalization of HIV. I feel like those take home tests is going to cause more damage than anything because people are criminalized because of the HIV status that they don't disclose. So it's Yasmin and I had this conversation. It might be a pro to it, but I see the con to be much greater. I see people getting those tests, taking them, and finding out that they're HIV positive and not telling, or getting those tests and making their partner take those tests, and they find out that they're HIV positive, and it becomes a big issue. I think those tests are going to be more damaging than anything because the Magic Johnson tests have been on the market for years. I think it was like $65 at Walgreens.
Yeah, so for specific populations, this might work, but not for everyone, and that's why we need to have multiple options for us because of our varying identities and the ways that we live our life. Like, yes, knowing your HIV status is something that creates more obstacles for certain individuals because of the lives that they lead in being Black and trans and in the South.
Yeah.
But for some
Yeah.
populations, this is an option that might work, and so for organizations, that really want to address, what Ashanti is really saying is that, one, you need to know who you're working with. And so if you don't have a representative of us like her there to tell you, like, okay, yes, this works there, but for these individuals that we're working with, we need to explore a different type of option because of this layer of stigma that's attached to this. Well, we're living through like a lot of uncertain times when we're looking at all of the things that we're dealing with and facing. And so staying grounded is something that's really important. We talk a lot, especially during this pandemic, about self-care, and about our mental health. And so what advice can each of you give for individuals and for our community in the terms of how do we heal as a community, and how have you been healing as a leader individually?
I think for me, one of the biggest forms of self care that I've had is therapy. I think that oftentimes within, especially the Black community overall, but when we're talking about the intersections of Black and trans, or Black and persons living with HIV, there's a lot of mental health obstacles that come with that, and I think that having going to therapy, which is taboo in our community, but going to therapy, and having someone that is an objectional advocate for you and someone that you can be able to express everything that you need to express, I think it's definitely crucial. I've been a strong supporter and I've been going to therapy for years, and I feel like it's definitely helped. I also feel like working within the community, it's hard because while we're doing the work of trying to liberate our community and really, really trying to work to eradicate HIV, we have to be honest and know that it is an overwhelming obstacle within the community. And a lot of times we are fighting for a community that is almost fighting against us as we're trying to fight to liberate them. So I feel like you have to take time away from the community, and you have to know that you cannot lie down on the cross and sacrifice yourself, because that doesn't help either. You have to be able to find balance, and you have to know that the only way to truly liberate the community and work to end the HIV epidemic is to really make sure you're balancing work and self-care. Make sure you're showing the community that it is possible to do the work, to be healthy when we're talking about mental health and physical health, and really take care of yourself and just have a harmonious, balanced life.
Yeah, it takes a certain fortitude to be Black and trans and work in HIV, right? And it's not many people that have everything that it takes in order to kind of work within such a stigmatized kind of circle and field. And so you have to take care of yourself, because otherwise you won't be able, you'll be taken out to take care of the community. And so, we need every soldier in this fight possible. And so you have to take care of yourself and make that a priority. I schedule time out every day on my schedule to just focus on me and focus on my body and focus on my health. And so, any other good examples?
I shop.
What was that, Ashanti?
I live in Tampa, but Atlanta is only 5.5 hours away. So when I feel overwhelmed, I fill up and I hop on the road. Just this weekend, I filled up and I went to Fort Lauderdale to the flea market. When I feel overwhelmed, I shop. I shop. I'm sorry. It's my favorite thing to do. It makes me feel so loved.
I hear that. Shopping is therapeutic. It is, as long as you stay within your budget and don't mess yourself up. I see Javon also says it's important for trans men to step up and be counted, so that there will be more medication resources for ASAP people. And then also Zoom meetings with Black trans media has been healing for him. And the meetings on Facebook as well. Social media has been a way to stay connected without being at risk with being in groups physically. And yes, we have found that we have to find different ways of still being in touch and getting some type of together, because as Black people, they, you know, like we thrive with that physical connection and that, you know, getting together over a cookout or barbecue or over some drinks or, you know, or in the kiki session and so that we have to find ways to keep that going, because otherwise with everything else we deal with, and we're losing those little opportunities and moments that we do have with society being against us in so many different ways, that yes, social media and technology does give a lot of good options. But you know, also us all taking care of our health and being aware and educated can help us get out of this so that we can once again see each other and thrive in togetherness for sure. um any Joelle, what about you? Or anyone else? Yasmin?
For me, I piggyback like Ashanti said, shopping. But to me, I'm an extreme super thrifter. I love different pieces that nobody else is gonna have, and just treasures. And I like when I'm overwhelmed, I'll fill my car and I'll drive down to Alabama where my mom at, so I can get some country cooking. I turn off the city scene, turn off the community, and I'm there. And I'm in that setting. I'm the baby because I'm the only child, so I get pampered like a baby. So you know that recharges me. So when I hit the ground, I'm back full.
Yes. One thing for me too is gaming. You know, like a Zoom sounds good and everything, but it's attached to work so much that it's like, okay, it's either let's get on a game together, get in a private party, and do some, you know, shared mission, or you know, hitting someone up and doing a video call, you know, like on Facebook Messenger or something like that, other than, you know, a platform type of thing, and just chilling and chatting. You know, that's different than being on the phone. You can see each other. You can, okay, girl, watch me cook this little food over here, or something like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of good options for us to really try to keep our health. And because when we indulge in self care, we're thinking about ourselves. We're thinking about our bodies, and so we're thinking about our health. And as Black individuals, I know that we don't do that enough, especially those of us who do work in public health. We're so outwardly facing with, you know, trying to push everyone else that we tend to neglect ourselves. So I would like to say for, you know, individuals out there in the South, period, you know, focus on your health. It's important. You focus on, if all of us focus on us, then it'll just make it a whole lot better. And then we can have a lot more energy to fight this fight towards equity and equality and you know, and you know, try to recreate the system where structures work for everyone and not just for us specific subsets of people, right? Any closing words from anyone? I'd like to hear some closing words from each of you before we let everyone go.
I think I'll start. I think for me, the biggest assumption that the end goal is to end the HIV epidemic. And like I said earlier, I think that to end HIV, we have to understand that HIV is the symptom, not the disease. To end HIV, especially amongst Black trans women, we have to end unemployment. We have to end housing disparities. We have to end domestic violence and the murdering of Black trans women. We have to create a safe environment where Black trans women can flourish and be able to move forward with their life. I think that when we start to tackle those social justice issues, because HIV is a social justice issue, it's a racial issue, it's a Black trans issue. Once we start to attack those issues, we will see that HIV as a byproduct, the rates will start to go down. But only once we start to attack those issues will we then be chipping away at the epidemic known as HIV.
Thank you. Ashanti?
Get educated, get tested. Is all I can say. Because as far as us trying to end HIV, we have PrEP, PEP, and drugs that have been brought out that gives us a suppressed immune system or a suppressed viral load, but yet our numbers are still high. I mean, I don't understand that. This is a whole nother conversation. I don't understand how we have all of this information out there. Like we didn't have this information when I was 16. I'm 46 now. We have all of this information out there, and we have all of these medications for individuals to take to prevent them from getting HIV. Yet our numbers are still getting high. You know, the campaigns that have came out, U equals U. Our numbers are still getting high. And that is a problem to me because it's not like the education is not there. It's like some people just really don't believe that it can affect you, or our Black folks are looking at the fact that, well, my grandma got it and she looks good, so it really doesn't matter. It's not a really big fright anymore. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say as far as a closing. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the truth. That's your truth, and that's the truth to a lot of us because uh, the methods, like the actual the pills, the medications, that's there, but it's the in between. It's who's running the programs, who's creating, our means of engagement, and how we're outreaching our community, and who's creating the campaigns, and who's representative, and all of these little things that then make of that access issue for us. Javon would like for the viewers to know that you're not in this alone. We're all here working towards getting to zero, and everyone's experience matters, and together we will get to the goal. And I know that Yasmin was the one who coordinated this conversation, as an ambassador for the Stop HIV Together campaign through the CDC. So with that, I would like for Yasmin to kind of close us out in talking about her experience in being an ambassador and how that has helped you, and just how this conversation, what you wanted to get viewers to get out of this whole conversation for today, for Southern HIV and AIDS Awareness Day.
Oh, okay. For me, being an ambassador for the Let's Stop HIV campaign, it became a little journey because of I came in at the last 6 months of it, but then the representation of being Black and trans, and I'm a friendly welcome face in the community here in Atlanta. So I decided to reach out to my sister counterparts around the South, so we can all collectively come together, have conversations to help the younger generation to end the epidemic. So if we can start with the younger generation, then we can start the education and start to reteach on the level of it's okay. We're in the struggle. Everybody's doing the work, but you're not alone. Here, you're not alone in Florida. You're not alone in Alabama. You're not alone. Tennessee, Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana. Uh, the southern region suffers. So this conversation was I wanted to get it to bring more awareness to the rural South, so that people know and see familiar faces, and you can help someone else be linked to care.
Exactly. You're not alone, and the stigma that you're seeing out there is strictly based off of ignorance, and not off of science, and not off of real life experience. And so Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Yasmin, for creating this space for us. Thank you, Joelle, Ashanti, Javon. Thank you, and thank you for relaying your thoughts. Even though we were having some technical issues here, and thank you to all of you who are watching this. And remember, you can go to resources to cdc.gov/together for the Let's Stop HIV Together campaign. Also, my website is transgenderstrategy.org. Everyone else, you wanted to give your organizational info, contact?
Lipstapper.org, lipstapper@gmail.com.
Mine is thenormalanomaly.org, as well as you can find us on all social media platforms at The Normal Anomaly. On Twitter, it's DA Normal Anomaly.
And as a board member at Southern AIDS Coalition, thank you to that organization for creating this space for us, and thank you for the Let's Stop HIV Together campaign. Partnerships and collaborations really do work, and as you see, with the wonderful individuals here that represent so many facets and factions of the South, and here we need to have more conversations like this. Javon's information is princessjanaeplace.org for their website. And so thank you, everyone, and thank you, panelists, and everyone have a great day.
Bye-bye.